was 23 years old. I had $8,000 in my bank account, money I'd scraped together working weekends for years. That money meant something to me. It was freedom in cash form. And I spent every last dollar of it paying off a credit card. The debt was gone, I felt lighter, then my next bank statement arrived. The balance was zero, but that $8,000 was gone, and it wasn't working for me anymore. It wasn't producing a single thing. That was the day I understood. Interest either works for you or you work for it. And which side you spend your life on is directly tied to your financial destiny. So what exactly is the difference between those two sides? Let's walk through it, step by step.
Here's what I'm going to cover in this video. What interest actually is and what it really means for your life. The types of interest that exist and how they show up in your day-to-day. How compound interest works like magic, both for you and against you. Debt interest is quietly draining the average American's budget with real 2025-2026 numbers. And most importantly, the single decision that determines whether interest makes you wealthy or keeps you broke. 20 minutes, but these 20 minutes could genuinely change the way you see money. Think about this for a second. As of 2025, the average American carries around $6,500 in credit card debt, and the average interest rate on those cards, 21.59%. That's roughly $1,400 a year paid in interest alone. You get nothing for that money. No product, no service, it's just the cost of owing someone. Now flip it around. What if you put that same $1,400 every year into an investment account and let it grow at the S&P 500's historical average return of 10%? After 20 years, what do you have? About $80,000. $80,000 just from stopping credit card interest payments and putting that money to work for yourself instead. But it's not that simple, because when we talk about interest, we're actually talking about two completely different worlds, and confusing the two can cost you everything. World 1, you pay interest. Credit cards, auto loans, student debt, mortgages. World 2, interest gets paid to you. Bonds, high-yield savings accounts, dividend stocks, rental income. And most people spend their entire lives in World 1 because no one ever taught us the difference in school. I was one of those people until I learned it the hard way.
Interest is the cost of using money. When you use someone else's money, you pay a fee for that privilege. When someone uses yours, they pay you. The earliest recorded interest dates back to ancient Mesopotamia, around 3000 BC. Loan agreements carved into clay tablets. Humanity has understood interest for almost as long as it's understood money itself. But today, interest is far more complex than it used to be. There are two core types: simple interest and compound interest. Simple interest, calculated only on the original principal. $1,000 at 10% simple interest, that's $100 a year every year. Compound interest, calculated on both the principal and the interest that's already accumulated. Interest on interest. And that small distinction produces enormous consequences. Compound interest really does work like magic, but it cuts both ways. Let me show you exactly how. There's a quote often attributed to Albert Einstein. We can't be certain he actually said it, but the idea is powerful. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. There's a concept called the Rule of 72. If you want to know how long it takes for money to double, divide 72 by the annual interest rate. If you're investing at 8% returns, 72 divided by 8, your money doubles in 9 years. If you're paying 21.59% credit card interest, 72 divided by 21.59, your debt doubles in roughly 3.3 years. So if you're only making minimum payments and letting that balance sit, your debt nearly doubles every 3 years. Let that sink in. Now, let's look at the upside. As of 2025, you can open a basic index fund account through platforms like Vanguard or Fidelity. The S&P 500's inflation-adjusted average annual return over the past 50 years has been around 7%. If you invest $200 a month starting at age 22 and keep it up until 65, how much do you end up with? Your total contributions? Only $103,600. Everything else, that's compound interest doing the heavy lifting. But here's what's actually wild. Some people have flipped this entire system in their favor. Instead of paying interest, they collect it. How? Stick with me, we're getting there. Do you know how much Americans pay in credit card interest every year? In 2024, that number crossed $130 billion in a single country in a single year. And the majority of that comes from middle and lower income households. So in a very real sense, interest functions like an invisible tax. The wealthy collect it while everyone else pays it. What does that look like in your own life? Credit cards, as of 2025, the average APR, annual percentage rate, is 21.59%. Auto loans, the average rate is 7.1% on a 60-month term. On a $35,000 car, you'll pay roughly $6,500 in interest over the life of the loan. Student loans? Federal rates for undergrads in 2025-26 sit at 6.53%. On $30,000 in debt, you'll pay about $10,000 in interest over 10 years. Mortgage? A 30-year fixed rate in mid-2025 is running around 6.8 to 7.0%. Buy a $400,000 home, and you'll pay roughly $550,000 total over 30 years, more than twice the home's price. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you so you can see it clearly, because you can't change what you won't face. People who don't know this spend years unknowingly feeding a system that's working against them, but the people who do know it, they turn that system around. Let's talk about how. There are a few core ways to put interest on your side. Number 1, high-yield savings account. As of 2025, banks like Marcus, Ally, and SoFi are offering rates between 4.5 and 5.1%. That's roughly 10 times more than the national average for traditional savings accounts, which hover around 0.46%. If you keep $10,000 in a regular bank account, you earn about $46 a year. In a high-yield savings account, that's $490 to $510 a year. Zero risk, zero extra effort. Number 2, U.S. Treasury bills, T-bills. U.S. Treasury securities in 2025 are yielding between 4.2% and 4.9%. You can buy them directly through treasurydirect.gov, backed by the federal government. Number 3, dividend stocks. Companies like Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, and Realty Income pay regular dividends to shareholders. If you hold their stock, the company sends you cash on a regular basis. That's a form of interest income. Number 4, index funds. Through Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab, you can open a Roth IRA or contribute to a 401k. Long-term compound growth, the most powerful tool for building retirement wealth. So when you put it all together, what's the single thing that determines whether interest makes you rich or keeps you broke? We're at the most important part. There's a concept in finance called net interest position. Banks use it all the time. I want to apply it to your personal finances. Ask yourself this: how much total interest am I paying every month? How much total interest income am I earning every month? The difference between those two numbers, that's your net interest position. If you're paying more than you're earning, you're feeding the system. If you're earning more than you're paying, the system is feeding you. And you don't need to be a millionaire to flip that position. Research consistently shows that for most people, there's a single turning point on the road to financial freedom. It comes down to this question: do I invest while I'm still in debt, or do I pay off the debt first? The answer is mathematical. If your debt's interest rate is above 20%, pay it off first, period. It's nearly impossible to consistently earn higher returns in the market than you're losing to that debt. If your debt's interest rate is between 5% and 7%, you can invest while you pay it down. Historically, market returns tend to outpace that range over the long run. Getting that decision right can change decades of your financial life. Now here's the thing I want to leave you with, the thing that doesn't get talked about enough.
more than 90% of Warren Buffett's net worth was accumulated after his 65th birthday. That's not luck, that's the time dimension of compound interest. Buffett started investing at age 10, which means he didn't just benefit from the last 10 years of compounding, he benefited from 70 years of it. How old are you watching this video? If you're 30, you still have 35 years. If you're 40, you still have 25 years. And even 10 years of compound growth is enough to be life-changing. What if you're thinking, it's too late for me? Here's what I'll say. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Let's step back and look at what we just covered. 1. Interest is a two-way tool. It either works for you through savings and investments, or you work for it through debt. 2. Compound interest grows exponentially over time. It's both the most powerful financial weapon available to you and the most dangerous debt trap if you're on the wrong side of it. 3. Know your position. Calculate what you pay in interest each month. Calculate what you earn. Flipping those two numbers, that's the goal. Here's what I want you to do after this video. Today, right now, pull up your credit card statement. Look at your APR. If it's above 15%, that is your most urgent financial problem. Not the stock market, not crypto, that interest rate. Next, look into a high-yield savings account. Compare Marcus, Ally, and SoFi. Start putting your money to work for you instead of against you. And if you're thinking, I want to learn how to invest, but I have no idea where to start, my investing series on this channel was built exactly for that. When I spent that $8,000 at 23, I made a mistake. But that mistake taught me something I've never forgotten. Money is like someone who leaves if you don't pay attention to it. But take care of it, and it will keep working for you long after you've stopped working. Every week on this channel, we talk about practical, honest steps on the road to financial freedom. Real numbers, real strategies, real-life examples. If this video added value for you, hit subscribe and tap the bell icon. That way you'll be the first to know when the next one drops. And drop a comment telling me, right now, are you on the side that pays interest or the side that collects it? I genuinely want to know. See you in the next one.